Well, let's take the conversation further now. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, Bridget Masango, joins us now this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and a good evening to you. All right, no conclusive report as yet. Is that satisfactory for Parliament?
Yes, good evening again. No conclusion yet. To the extent that we would have liked as the Portfolio Committee. We were made to appreciate, and we did, that when we were asked for 30 days, we gave 30 days not having determined how much work is there to be done, and also how long it would take to actually get and identify the service provider that was going to do this work. So all that preliminary work was included in the 30 days, which then made this to be a preliminary report that the department brought to us. And the best thing that it did, I can say, is that it confirmed the concerns and the findings of the two students, and then each of the gaps or weaknesses or vulnerabilities were given with a recommendation by the service provider. So the department or Sassa has something to go back to do, and while they widen or deepen the investigation further to reach a stage where we can know what about those applications that are active, whose ID numbers, whose people, the ID numbers of whom the owners had not made the applications, did they actually get the money as well? And how much of that money did they get? And how long have they been getting it? And who was involved in this? And how can that money be recouped? As the Minister said in your introduction.
You know, Chair, here's where things get a little bit difficult, I suppose, for us to make peace with. And that's the fact that you've got a government department that then issues out an investigation to look into whether or not there is SRD grant fraud, 30 days to do so. You're talking about a department that would ideally have the resources to go and investigate if billions is being stolen from the social relief distress grant. But
yes,
in 30 days, that has not been met. Meanwhile, two learners at Stellenbosch University, one is 19, one is 20 years old, were able to get, some shocking data in a very short period of time. In fact, if you'll allow me, Ms. Masango, what I want to do is actually play a few clips, because we spoke to Via Gosai and Joel Cedras, these two Stellenbosch University students. We spoke to them on the 18th of October. And listen to how they describe the data that they collected, how easy it was for them to find it, and then the numbers that they came back to. Listen to this.
Our Sassa grants weren't on our phone numbers. They were registered to completely fraudsters' phone numbers, and we didn't know what they were. So to see if this was a widespread problem, we did a on-survey campus where we asked about 60 people, and we managed to test their ID numbers. And what we found out was over 56 of them had active Sassa applications that they had no knowledge of.
In February of 2005, people born in that month, we discovered that there were 74,000 active applications, okay? But when we compared this with Stats SA data, we found that there are only 82,000 people born in that month. So there's a 91% application rate for people born in February 2005. And then this doesn't correlate at all. And I mean, you can look at things like the youth unemployment, that's at 60.8%. So there's at least a 30% gap there that is completely unaccounted for, because those people, if they have jobs, they wouldn't even be applying for the grant. But according to the data that we gathered, they have.
Yeah, those are the two Stellenbosch University students who initially wanted to just look at the system and see what it does if they apply for the SRD grant. And when they did that, they realized that they had already got applications in the system, applications they knew nothing about. And as you hear them explain there, in a study with their fellow students, 90% of those they surveyed already had active applications that they did not know about. This is, I mean, first-year students that did this, and in 30 days were not able to get to the bottom of it. as a government? Is that not concerning?
Yeah. It is concerning, but what we needed to take, not we, but what the department did not account for, did not include in the 30 days that they asked for, was the fact that they actually have to go out on tender to find the people that have done this work before, who are in the cyberspace, cybersecurity space, and so on and so forth, who would then be able to get into the system. And there must be people that can be trusted with getting into the system of Sassa and do the work that they did. I appreciate the fact that the two students could do what they did, and we don't know over how long they did it. But in this case, there needed to be, a confirmation of the information that they got, to say, so these people actually, there are verification issues. People are getting money on cash send, do not have to use any ID number, and so on and so forth. Oh. And so those leakages can now be confirmed to say, if those people are not the owners of the ID numbers, which in the case of cash send is not needed because the money just gets sent to the bank. How much of that has happened, and how many people are affected, the owners of the ID numbers and the people that have used those ID numbers, and how much of those grants, of those applications are actually in payment. I believe that is where the investigation has to go now, that it has been confirmed that all of the concerns that were raised by the students are actually true, even when they have gone into the system legally and, in Sassa as well. I agree and can appreciate when you say that if it couldn't be done in 30 days, there is a problem. What the argument I'm trying to make is that we did not factor into the 30 days the actual issue of a adjudication committee finding a service provider and giving them a scope of work that they must do, and then saying that this work must be done by this date. And it is something that, as the committee, we were asked for 30 days, we gave 30 days, but then we were made to understand that 30 days was not just for work. They actually started doing work. They were given the project on the 11th of November. And so this is why we are here where we are now at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that just from a public point of view, looking from the outside in, as South Africans, yes, it's not great optics, and I think that that's one of the great concerns. Nathan Geffen, I think it is, who is an editor with Ground Up, wrote a really interesting piece, and in it he goes on to say that the investigation into the social grant fraud is a flop. His words. Yeah. Yes, and he says, the results of the investigation as presented to Parliament fail to answer how fraudulent applications are made, how many of them succeed, how many grants have been paid out to ID numbers fraudulently, what steps, if any, can be taken to identify the forgers. And I mean, it's a list of questions. You say you've seen them. One of them also is what steps can be taken to stop these fraudulent applications? And that is the most important part. Because on the other end of it, there are people who are desperate to get that grant, right?
Yes, indeed. And also what I was saying earlier on is that the good thing, the best thing about this preliminary report is that for each gap or for each glitch in the system, it gives a recommendation immediately. So that should be able to, even before we delve deeper into the problem that we have, that should be able to do some work to actually avert a possible sort of problem that we are having. In fact, it's not possible now. We know that there's a problem. And so those recommendations, it was one of the resolutions that the portfolio committee put through to say those recommendations must be implemented as soon as possible, while you are looking at quantifying the cost that this has had on the taxpayers in terms of how many of those applications that are live on the system are actually in payment as we speak, and how much of that payment of that money has been paid out to ineligible people, while the eligible people are actually waiting and to no avail. Because if you apply and your application is already there, it means that you, as the actual owner of the ID number, you are not going to get access because a different phone number has been used. So the urgency of this and the importance and the critical nature of this thing is that there needs to be a stop to this, and there needs to be a stop soon. And the recommendations that were given have to be put in implementation, so that while the quantification is happening, the problem is not continuing.
Yeah, this investigation though costed 280,000 rand.
Yes.
I mean, that's a substantial amount of money. And then according to what the investigators did, so the company is at Marechare, and I might be, yes, I might be saying that right, but they did the investigation, and according to this piece that I mentioned earlier, they used a WordPress security analysis tool to analyze the Sassa site that isn't on a WordPress website. So, I mean, that's to me sounds like basic computer literacy knowledge, that if a website wasn't built on WordPress, you would not be able to use WordPress to check the security and data of that website. So do we even have the right contractor here?
Well, the question was asked very sharply by honorable members during the meeting, and they listed to us the institutions which they are members of as an organization, and as individuals in the organization that they are that are affiliated to in cybersecurity, in auditing, in so on and so forth. So to that extent, we believe that they are qualified. But obviously, this information that came, and I actually saw it after the meeting, that Groundup issued, one would have to then say, guys, what does this mean in the real world, as far as your capability and the way that you did the way that you are said to have done this in a platform that is not compatible with the system of Sassa.
Yeah, assist me with this, if you will, because I think here it gets, and I'm not going to act like I understand what all of this means, and perhaps you were able to assist us with some clarity from what you heard in the sitting. Yes. The website, SRD-SASSA, so srd-sassa.org.za, is not a government website. It's registered in Pakistan. Explain that for us.
I did not hear that. Is this in the
piece by Nathan? Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that part at all. I have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't hear that. That's what is happening.
Okay, because that's concerning, and that's something we need to look at.
It is.
And okay, so these two young men, these two young men, Veer Gosai and Joel Cedrus, they've come to Parliament. I mean, what's the plan then, and perhaps even working with them, since they were able to understand and bring to light what's gone wrong here?
Right. I am of the understanding, on the 23rd, when the two students were here in Parliament, the minister actually undertook to say they will be working, her office will be working with them going forward to, delve deeper into this. And I'm aware of attempts that have been made to get into contact with them, because part of that I was actually personally asked to sort of negotiate with them or ask them if they can be contacted by the investigators as opposed to the minister. They, I believe, after like 2 days, they came back to me to say, Bridget, we are writing exams at the moment, but we also had to consult before we could come back to you and say that yes, they can contact us. And then I sort of shared that information with the investigators.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, I'm of the opinion that those interactions are happening or they will be happening soon, because as you rightly say, they're the ones that that went public with this.
Yeah.
And then as the chairperson of the committee, I then said, please come through and present to the committee, and the department must be there. So going forward, we then, because we are just exercising oversight,
Yeah.
we handed them over to the minister, who then welcomed the opportunity to work with them going forward.
Do you believe that the boys are safe? I think that's an important question. 19 and 20 years old, very young.
I believe that if the boys feel unsafe, they would communicate that, because obviously that can't happen. That they've actually been so brave to assist South Africa, not even the committee, to assist South Africa with this information. So their safety would have to be ensured as far as it is presenting itself.
Yeah. Well, we do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Chairperson there for the Social Development Portfolio Committee, Ms. Bridget Masango, speaking to us this evening here on Newsfeed PM.